creamy, slightly mushy coconut beans with a spicy chicken stew, which is my take on Ayamase, the popular Ayamase stew with golden baked plantains on top. It's my idea of life's good on any day of the week, day of the month, in fact the whole year. Well, one of my really good ideas of comfort. I'm going to be getting to this recipe by marinating this chicken first, but before we do that, thank you so much, Eshegoni, Asante, Merci bien, for tuning in from wherever you are in the world. Don't forget to subscribe in case you're new here. You're welcome. My name is Chef Fregs, and this is Fregs at Home, where I want to teach you how I, as a professional chef, cook at home and get recipes across to you that are hearty, quick, fast, but obviously not compromising on flavor. All right, let's get into this recipe, okay? So we're going to start off actually by marinating some chicken, seasoning so that the chicken starts to, get juicy and sweet, I'm going to start with some garlic. Just going to put about that much, about a tablespoon of chopped garlic. It could be minced garlic. Go ahead with yourself. I have some powdered crayfish here. I'm going to go with a tablespoon and a little extra. Then I have some adobo seasoning. This adobo seasoning is MSG free. I try to use MSG free seasonings when I cook if I have to. But please, by all means, if you're an MSG person, go ahead and do that. So some chicken powder as MSG free, some adobo. I don't want to over season this with seasoning powders. I'll tell you why in a second. Because I'm using sea salt, which is my preferred. So be quite generous. Again, remember sea salt isn't as pungent as regular table salt. So it's my preferred. One last seasoning to the chicken. I have dried Iru powder. This is from a brand called Dumchi in Nigeria, but many other brands make it. I love that chocolatey flavor this dried one has. I have the fresh one, I'll show you in a second. Put about a tablespoon and a little in there. Super duper. So we're going to mix that up. Please don't try and over season your chicken, okay? All right, that is mixed properly. I'm just going to put it to one side. Feel free to marinate this ahead overnight if you can. But this recipe, in case you don't have any time, you're still good to go. We're going to get into our beautiful radiance pot here. Light it up. I put some oil in there, just a tiny little bit. Just some vegetable oil. I'm just going to put a bit more. Just a tiny bit, tiny. You see why we don't need so much oil for this. And I'm going to go in with some onion. Grab my trusty red spatula. Don't worry, I just want the onions to flavor the beans. It's going to soften and disappear. You don't worry about that. So while that is heating up, I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to grab the beans. Now, this is the hack here. These beans are honey beans that have been treated. They've been kind of dehydrated. Can you hear that? Yeah, it's kind of crispy shells almost of the beans. I'm going to grab a cup measure. And I'm just going to measure a cup 3/4 in there. Can you hear that popping already? Now the hack with these beans, is that it doesn't need a lot of time to cook. Remember I told you it's all about fast. And this cooker, remember, high convection heat, so it's all already like super fast. Don't worry, we're going to introduce flavor in a second. I'm going to grab a spoon. If you don't put garlic in your beans, don't judge me. Just a tiny bit is going to go a very, very long way, all right? But I like a little more than a tiny bit in my cooking. I'm not going to bother putting chilies in here because we are making a spicy stew for the beans. Just stirring that around. I'm going to introduce some more flavor. Now, crayfish and beans, best friends. Phineas and Herb, what was the name of that cartoon? I put in 2 tablespoons. I'm actually going to put 3. Because how am I kidding? I'm going to introduce some salt to this, but I'm going to be careful. A bit of that chicken powder, a bit of that adobo. Beans and salt, not so best friends. Then I've turned this down to a low heat. Now this is stockfish powder. I'm going to go in with a good tablespoon as well, and a little extra. So I need to grab the real flavor bomb from my InstaView. My coconut milk. So real coconut milk will separate. You can use a can, but I find that fresh coconuts are most. So that has toasted a bit. So no water. I'm reserving some for the end. I will show you more coconut bean recipes as this channel progresses. We can't do everything in one episode, can we? Just gonna add some more. We'll reserve some for later. So this I'm going to allow come to a boil, quite an aggressive boil. And because these beans are, the way they've been processed, they've kind of been shelled, dehydrated a bit, so they tend to cook quicker. So we're not going to be slaving away. Cover. So again, high convection, and this is going to be going on strong. So before we get to our stew, which we're going to be making in this cast iron pan, I have my green bell peppers, I have my onions, we have a bit of garlic, just a tiny bit that I'm going to add just a tiny bit, again, it might take, and some chilies here. We have this yellow one, and we have this unripe green Scotch bonnet. So let's get to blending. So this is the fresh iru that has been fermenting as well. I'm going to add a heaping tablespoon and a half. Smells really stinky and just the best umami flavor. If we need more, we'll add some in powdered form. So I'm just going to add a bit of water to this. Just a tiny bit to help it at the bottom. Because I'm using a high-speed blender. So this gets pressed a few times to my desired smoothness. I don't want it super fine, neither do I want it super rough. Into a bowl it goes. Oof. Delicious. So the story behind this stew, which is my take, I mean, I make Ayamase or fada stew in the house all the time, but we're hosting our friend Debola Lagos one night, and I had to make something for my wife. My wife doesn't eat anything that is super fancy. Even with Nigerian food, she's really finicky. So I made this chicken dish so that it would be different with these beans actually. Anyway, for the palm oil, you know, normally you need to bleach your palm oil, but thanks to Ekpogbiba by Super Dishes, I don't have to. I'll put a link in the bio. I'm going to go in with a bit of the ekpo because we want to fry the chicken first, okay? So don't be too alarmed, all right? So the pan is getting hot. Remember, the great thing about this cooker is lots of space. Look, 3 pots, they're not clanging. There's actually space around. I am preheating my oven because these beautiful plantains are going to get a toasting. So let's start to work on that. I'm going to get some salt in there. Tiny touch of oil. Tiny touch of oil. I told you it was tiny. I'm going to grab this spoon. I'm going to grab my trusty Radiant big dish. So while that is getting hot, I want to see that oil smoke a bit. We're going to toss all that in there. Mix that around. So I set the oven to preheat as the oven, but now I'm going to put the plantains in, and halfway through cooking, I'll switch over to the grill so that it browns on top. So this is going into the oven. time to fry off the chicken bits. I've cut this chicken really tiny into bite size, as you'll find with your Boka woman, or man in my case. Like I said, you can allow this marinade overnight if you're more organized. You can put some sliced onion in if you want at this point, but there's plenty onion in my stew, so I don't mind. So don't worry, I'm not overcrowding the pan. I'll give you a tip. When it looks like you're overcrowding the pan, just try and leave your meat alone, and the temperature will fix itself and everything will sear properly. So while the chicken is cooking, we're going to check on our beans. So the coconut milk has split slightly. I think we may need to do some water. So I'm going to grab just a spoon to check how soft the beans are. They're getting there. It tastes super good already. I'm going to leave that to keep simmering. It's at about 10 minutes. So with the chicken right now, just leave it alone. You want to see it kind of come up to the sides. Because if you try and move it around now, it's just going to drop the temperature of the pan. We already dropped the temperature of the oil here. We don't want to do that any further. We want that to really come back up to a nice temperature. Allow everything to start kind of searing and browning. I'm not going to cook it all the way through, but we're going to get it really brown. So these are brown, but not to the point of dryness. And I've used a soft chicken. If you're going to use a soft chicken, please be sure to boil it down before you use. I'm not bothering to put this on a paper towel because we need all that grease back in anyway. This reminds me of when your mom fried meat as a child and all you wanted to do was steal each piece. But now you're the adult now. You can't cheat yourself, can you? Alright. So I'm gonna grab a nice spoon. Oil is super hot. So the green pepper mix, remember we had the green peppers, we had our unripe scotch bonnet and the orange yellow variety, all in here with loads of onions. Now the reason I like putting onions is that onions caramelize and add a sweetness to stews and any dish that you're doing. I mean, why did the French have onion soup that is caramelized and it's still on their menus centuries after? We're going to go straight ahead and season. A tablespoon and a little of crayfish powder, half a tablespoon of stockfish powder. Now, because the chicken is seasoned, I'm not going to super season this just yet. So I'm going to go with about a teaspoon and some of both the chicken powder and the adobo seasoning. Maybe a little more of the adobo seasoning. And of course, we have our trusty salt. Just a tiny pinch for now. Let's check on our beans. Oh, the water has dried out, starting to become a little mushy. I would grab another fork now. Have a taste. Almost there. I'm going to go in with the rest of the coconut milk. And I'm going to go in with a bit of water to help it. just for it to cook and get into mush. That's what we want. So let's give this a stir. We want this to kind of go from green to a dark color. So allow it bubble. It's going to go dark. I want the peppers to really cook out, and you have to be patient. So please keep an eye on your stew. You don't want to just walk out on it. So go ahead, taste at this stage where the seasoning is at. Perfecto. Is a happening something. This is the stew that is the big boys that you want to chill with. You guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to steal one of my chicken. It's a Dorimi's toast. One more check up on this. Let's check on our plantains. I'm going to switch to the grill. So I've switched to the grill now with the plantains so that they brown on top. So the stew is going to brown, but we must be careful to keep stirring so it doesn't burn or catch on the sides. I'm able to do something. So on tasting it, I feel like it needs a touch more iru. I mean, it's not Ayamase without that punch of umami. I've gone with the powdered version because I don't like to see my iru in food. I'm going to go with a tiny dot of crayfish. I don't want the food smelling of crayfish too much. So we've gone from a bright, vibrant green to this dark. And if you notice, I keep scraping the bottom of the pan so that all the caramelized bits of the onions, the peppers, is going back into the food. I've tasted this, I added some more iru, and I'm going to throw in the chicken. You need all that juice, as much of it you can get. Please, by all means, use beef if that's your choice. But because we want it to be super fast, chicken is your bet. Some water to loosen things around. Again, we check on our beans. Perfect. It's all broken up. It's all mushy. So I'm just going to allow that cook down even a bit more. Ensure it's on the high heat. So this, again, we've loosened it with some water to deglaze the bottom of the pan and allow it to feel like stew. You can make it as thick or as light as you want. The truth is you can cook this to get darker, but I think I'm happy with where I'm at now. We're going to check for seasoning before we plate up. So beautiful. It's gorgeous. But I want a final pinch of salt. I want a final dusting of stockfish powder. Maybe 2 final dustings. And I want just the bare imagination of this chicken powder. So the Ayamase chicken stew is, to me, at its peak. Any darker than this would be doing the most. I think it's just at that perfect army green, deep army green darkness that it's meant to be at. Let's check on our beans here. The beans are just mushy perfection. I don't even think we need, just look at how we just, So we're going to turn the heat up both. Super good, super good. Perfect consistency. You can make yours less mushy if you want to. I'm gonna go into the oven to grab our plantains. Hot, hot, hot. So we'll get to our beans. Just look at that, creamy. Just for a final taste test, I think you can do with a tiny smidge of salt. Tiny, tiny, tiny. Spicy stew just being nestled over the beans. A great. I'm salivating, this is so beautiful. I'm just gonna toss it with one more piece of chicken right there. Here with the plantains, these are roasted so they are caramelly, chewy almost. The perfect accompaniment. So there you have it, my creamy, quick and easy coconut beans with that spicy but yet very succulent, delicious chicken ayamase stew with the roasted plantains. The perfect hug, pick me up for any month of the year, any day of the week. Remember, life is good here of Fregs at home, and I know you've enjoyed this video. Please like, share it, and of course, hit that subscribe button so that you know every time there's an episode up here. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to continue with this pot of beans while you got me killed.